Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to have you all here. We are CASA Pitzer. My name is Tessa Hicks-Peterson. I'm a professor at Pitzer College. I've been teaching at Pitzer for 17 years, and the very first class that I taught was in a program called Pitzer in Ontario, which then became CASA, which is where we are. The program has been around for 25 years, and it's really a beautiful way to live Pitzer's values around social justice and intercultural understanding and social responsibility and environmental sustainability. I feel like I don't know anywhere else that does it better than this, but I'm very biased. And it brings me such joy to do this work. We have a panelist today of incredible alumni who have been a part of CASA Pitzer over the years. And I'm going to introduce them and talk about them in just a second. But before I do, I want to give big thanks to all of you for being here today with us. And also to our friends from Advancement who are hosting Alumni Weekend. This is the launch for Alumni Weekend. Woo woo! So we will be able to celebrate our alumni in so many different ways this whole weekend. I hope you all will join us for all of those things. It's also an opportunity for us to include our community partners that we work with. We have many of them here today, and I thank them for being with us, and all the staff and students from Pitzer, most especially Scarlett Duarte. I don't know where you are, but my sister in all things CASA, and so grateful for your help in all of this, and all the team from Advancement for helping us make CASA look so pretty today. Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and jump on in. So all of you, if you would like them, should have a brochure that tells you a little bit about the students, oh, they're not students anymore, sorry, the alumni that are here with us. And those bios are really beautifully written by them about their experience. But I'll tell you a little bit about getting to know each of them and then let them speak for themselves about the experience of being at CASA. I'm going to start with Michael because he's right here. Michael and I met on Pitzer's campus as he was wandering through with a tour. He was, and he's given me permission to share the story, so I go ahead and say, it was with the Reintegration Academy, which is a wonderful organization that works with formerly incarcerated folks and brings them into education opportunities. And he was there on a tour, and it was his first time at Pitzer, and I met him, and Nigel and I sat and talked with him and told him about this program called NRS, which is the New Resource Student Program, which is for non-traditionally aged students who are coming back to school. And he was like, that's cool, I'm gonna apply. And then he did, and then he got in, and then he showed up, and then he kicked butt. And Michael is an incredible human being with a huge heart, and now has gone on to do the work that supported him and his journey, which now he's working with formerly incarcerated youth as a project coordinator for Project Rebound at San Bernardino. Michael took CASA while it was online in the middle of the pandemic, and it was one of the only semesters I didn't teach in 17 years. So we didn't actually get to be in class together, but he came to me later and was like, this isn't right, we gotta find a way to do work together. So he and I did an independent study, and because we were both working full-time and very busy, we met like at 6 p.m. at a cafe next to my house for the independent study and just sat and talked like every other week in a cafe together. The best class ever. We had a lot of fun, so I'm really grateful to have you here with us and to share some of your stories. Chris Kabunag is right here next to Michael. Chris took CASA when he was in his second year, which was 2019? No. Yeah, is that right? 18. And Chris is an artist and an advocate for public health and is working doing both of those things today and was doing those things when I met him. He has art and community in his soul. I don't think he could escape that trajectory if he tried. And we have worked together on countless projects. We co-created a book with members of the community who are in this room Mario, I'm talking about you. We co-created a book called Immigrants of the IE, which brought photography to local community members who shot pictures about their lives in the IE, and it's now published and out in the world, which is exciting. And we're working on another book that's coming out, and we did a mural together, which is up on that wall that the students helped paint. The mural that Chris designed for CASA, depicting all the community partnerships and the work we do, that was finished at 9 p.m. last night. So, Mare is next. Mare and I have known each other since they were in my class in 2007, which makes us both a lot older than we remember. And Mare was just so young and eager to work in community, and from the day one we went in and basically started a new program at Gary High School in Pomona called Girl Talk, and they can tell you more about that, but it was the beginning of Mare's work in social work, I think, right? So fast forward 16 years later, and Mare is a very successful social worker and does writing and research and program evaluation and things that are just magnificent. And so grateful to have you back again after so many years. Rosalina and I met through the computer in the middle of a pandemic. We did not know each other face to face for a long time. She was in my class in 2019, and 2020, fall 2020, and the entire class from beginning to end was online, which was the first time that had ever been done at Pitzer College, as far as I know, and in my lifetime. And you would think that being online might be a little disconnected, but somehow it was like one of the most intimate classes that I've ever taught. Probably because we were like in each other's bedrooms, like people would be like with their laptop in bed, having just woken up, and be like, hi, and that's how we had class, right? And it was magnificent. And one of the classes, Rosina led the class and did a whole class on how we find sort of the hope for social justice and social change, and through our music, and had the whole class create a music playlist that I still listen to. It's one of my favorites today. So, and Rosalina is still doing what she loves. She is from the community and has returned to the community and is doing community gardening, which she started at work, the YA through our program, and it's continued on, and public health. I will mention that Rosalina is graduating in 1 month or so, and a few days, with her master's in public health. Woo woo! I'll also say that a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years, Chris graduated with his master's in public health and in policy. Sorry. And Michael is going to be graduating in a year with a master's in social work. So we're looking good around here. Thank you, Pitzer College, for starting some good things. I already mentioned that you got your social work, right, Mara? That was a little while ago. And Keely, last but not least, was graduated from Pitzer College like 4 months ago, right? I don't know, it was December, whenever that was, right? So you just made it through, and through pandemic times and all of that. Keely and I worked together, I think, for like 3 years straight online, because she became a part of a project that we've started at CASA called No Justice, No Peace. And we met twice a week for years, working on this project of bringing healing justice to folks who are on the front lines of trauma and injustice. And we did workshops and trainings. We just found out that we just got published in an article in a journal that we co-authored together with some of our other student collaborators, and we're also working on publishing an anthology about healing practices for addressing trauma and injustice. So we have a lot of work together, and you only have just graduated college, so wait to see what happens in the future. So these are our illustrious panelists. I wanted to give that more personal introduction. You can read their bios and find out more info, but for me, the work for community building, social change, and social justice begins with relationships. And the relationships between us and the love and peace that we practice between us is the building block for the world that we want to live in. And I get so happy to be in a room with people who are doing that and with whom I have that relationship. So thank you all so much for being the magnificent humans you are. Now I get to ask you questions. Excuse me. So the first and most important question is just really to ask you to tell us a little bit of who you are, what you're doing, and I'm going to kind of mix the two questions. Who you are and what you're doing, and how you feel like your CASA Pitzer experience impacted where you are today, right? So that can be personally, professionally, academically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, however you want to answer that question. But who you are, what you're doing, a little of your story, and how CASA Pitzer has impacted that journey. So who is the brave soul who would like to go first?
By seniority roles.
Yes, seniority.
Chosen.
There we go. Nice.
As Tessa mentioned, I'm Mayor Abrams. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm an educator, an activist, a clinical researcher, a published writer. I wear lots of hats, and I think I learned to love wearing so many hats while at what was the Pitzer in Ontario program and what now is CASA. So I started with Pitzer in Ontario in 2007 and just fell in love with the experiential education component. I recognize that's how I learn, it's how I love, it's how I understand myself and the world around me. And once I had a taste of it, I couldn't get enough. And so I somehow found a way to do a lot of independent studies and some teacher's aid work. And before I knew it, I had been a part of the CASA program for 3 out of my 4 years at Pitzer, and then stayed on to be on staff what was an urban fellowship after I graduated. And so CASA has really informed the trajectory of my life, both on a personal and professional level. Once I left the Pitzer nest, I went and did work in a nonprofit organization called Gender Spectrum, which goes into schools and does education and training around gender and sexuality. And this was over 10 years ago, so at a time when we weren't really having the conversations we were today about gender and sexuality. It was a very, very new topic. And after that, I decided I wanted to get a taste of the clinical research world. My major at Pitzer was community-based research, and so I went on to be part of an NIH study looking at, it's the first of its kind, looking at the long-term mental health and medical impact of gender-affirming care for transgender youth. So I was part of the UCSF, that's University of California, San Francisco Child and Adolescent Center, and I would work with youth and families, supporting them around their gender journey and exploration, and really got to dive into the clinical research side. Have been able to publish research and work as part of an interdisciplinary academic team. And my love for research really did start with CASA because I knew research didn't have to be on people, it was with people. And when I saw an opportunity to do research with a community that I was also a part of and had a personal relationship with, I jumped at that opportunity because I knew it was just going to be another lens through which I could impact social change in this world. After that, I went and got my master's in social work. I now have a private practice where I work with folks individually in therapy. And I really, one memory that comes back when I know related to memories is, talking to Tessa about like how overwhelming it is to take on the world when you really are committed to social justice work and social change work. And I said, like, the system is so broken, Tessa, like, how do you stay inspired? How do you stay in it? How do you not get discouraged? And she told me there's so many ways you can do this work. Like, spiritual healing is a way you can do this work. Working with people individually, you can do this work. You can do this work in so many capacities. You really have to find ways to work within the system to change the system. And that's, I think, a mantra that has just like led me through my life and where I am today. I now am a business owner, and I have a family, and I look at what I do every day and feel really, really proud. And my experience at CASA is a big part of that. So that's about me.
Hi everyone. So as Tessa introduced me, my name is Rosalina Ramirez. I was born and raised in Riverside, so I'm from the region. I'm very proud of my region, and I still do community work with my region within Empire. And so that's why it was so special when I came to Pitzer and I learned about the CASA program. I knew immediately that I wanted to be a part of it. And while I was at Pitzer, I was self-designing my major in public health with a focus in community health. And I'm also pre-med, so I plan on going to medical school. And so I was fitting in a self-designing major and all my pre-med prerequisites. And so I was having a really hard time finding a way to fit CASA into my schedule. And I was able to do it somehow. I don't know how, but I did it, and I did it online. And that was a really special experience. But a little bit about myself and how I got to this community work is that I was raised in a region with a really strong community. I started with a really strong community with my family. I was raised by my mom, who was a single mom. She's here, she's right here. She had me as a teen. She was 18 years old, and my dad was incarcerated shortly after I was born. I was 3 years old when my father was incarcerated, and so, I still have a really strong connection with my dad and with my family. He is definitely a big part of my story, but he wasn't physically there, so we really had to rely on our village and our community to become the people that we are. And so I had a very strong village with my cousins and my aunts and uncles, and I just had such a strong community. And from that was like a lot of love was born, and a lot of love and passion to serve the community that served me. And I started getting involved in community work very young. I was probably 11 or 12 years old when I started community organizing within my church, and that just snowballed into my interest in public health and medicine, and wanting to find ways to help people, I thought was the term then, right? I wanted to help people, and eventually I realized that I just wanted to be in community with people. I wanted to find ways to have a better life together, have the resources that we need to thrive, to be happy, to find joy, to not be plagued with diseases that our environments give us. And so when I was at CASA and trying to choose an internship, there was so many amazing internships that I was so torn at which one I wanted to choose. I remember meeting with Tessa and being like, I don't know which one, I'm really interested in all of us or none, because, my dad is incarcerated and I really wanted to serve that community. And there was the warehouse resource center, and I was just really struggling, and something called me to Puerta del Valle. I hadn't worked with community gardens in the past, but I don't know why, it just called me, and I went there and I did my internship there, and it was just such a healing space for so many people. Like getting your hands in the dirt, being with others while doing it, relearning so many things that have been torn away from us. We are people who traditionally have, in our ancestry, have cultivated and been able to provide for ourselves in that way. And so returning to those roots was really powerful for me, and being in community while doing that was really powerful for me. And so I continued in that work. That was my junior year when I was in CASA, and my senior year, I have the timelines all wrong. But the next few semesters after, I did my senior project with Puerta del Valle, and I worked with a group called CAMIC, which was a survivor group of women who have survived domestic violence. And it was a support group, and we I applied some of the research methods that I learned at CASA, the community-based participatory research methods, to create a project that felt good for everyone. And these women were in the process of creating this research project with me, and we ended up doing a really awesome class in urban foraging and alternative medicine. And we invited a forager, her name is Tracy, she used to work for Puerto del Valle, and a doctor from Loma Linda who was really into alternative medicine. And we did that class together, and it was really powerful. And so seeing the power that you can create and create these new systems and these new ways of healing within this space inspired me. And so I'm still working with with Puerta. I took on one of the gardens that used to be Puerta del Valle, and I'm coordinating that space. while I'm simultaneously doing my master's in public health at Loma Linda. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. I'm Keely Wang, she, her pronouns, and I know I recently just graduated, but I'm so grateful for CASA Pitzer because I felt like it equipped me with the skills and knowledge and expertise to now work in my current role. So I'm a communications manager at Partnership for Safety and Justice, and we advance statewide policies in Oregon to end mass incarceration. So I'm just really grateful because I never thought that I would be able to get to this position without CASA, and I really am thankful for Tessa, Scarlett for really transforming what academia or liberation, community-based research, what should look like. And I know that it's a lot of academic jargon, but I feel so much liberation healing in myself. And when I look back years ago, I feel there was a lot of trauma, and I feel I can really embrace sense of myself where I felt really ashamed of. Just from my stigma growing up as a first-generation immigrant too. So I felt with Tessa learning about how to decolonize my knowledge, and then with Nahira through the Inland Empire Immigrant Youth Collective, it really just allowed me to embrace my identity, but also understand the different aspects of being an immigrant. So I'm just really grateful to enhance that relationship with communities and continue the research with No Justice, No Peace, because I feel CASA really allows you to engage in academia, but in a way that allows you to explore your positionality. So I'm just really thankful for that aspect to be able to continue. And I see Nahara right there. Yeah, she's my mentor, and I just feel so grateful for the relationship. Hi, Nahara. I gave you a shout out earlier, so. Inland Empire Immigrant Youth Collective is the best word.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris, and I'm an artist and also a public health advocate. All my life I've been an artist. I've always seen art as really the best way to capture people's stories. And in addition to that, really to cope with trauma and just things that you face in life. When I was very young, I faced a lot of racial discrimination and overt racism in the school system, particularly in junior high, just being called names and a lot of public humiliation due to my color, my skin, and my size. And really, I looked at artists like Banksy and Obey, and a lot of these different graphic artists that use bold designs to really stand for something. And I kind of used art as a way to kind of get back at those people that disrespected me. At some point in junior high, I was doing art on people's PE shirts, and at some point I would use that art to kind of raise awareness on some things. And it got to the point where the school banned the art of writing on your PE shirt because of me. And so in that way, it kind of stuck it to me. And and on the side of that, I was also pretty involved in the community as a Filipino. A lot of Filipinos are involved in church. So growing up, I was involved in youth ministry, senior care homes, and then eventually working with the unhoused community. And so eventually, I wanted to try to find a way to connect the art to the community service to really tell people's stories visually. But hearing all these stories that people tell me, it's just best to really visualize that and give people the tools to tell it themselves. And so, starting in high school and all the way throughout college, my friends and I started this art group called Kuya. And then Kuya in Tagalog means to be an older brother, but it wasn't really meant to be gendered. It's also used as an endearment of someone that just helps out in the community. And so we would do all these art programs, creating t-shirts, art journaling, to raise money for the unhoused communities and the mental health facilities here. And also to send money abroad to the Philippines, to send kids to school. And so, coming to Pitzer in 2016 was the perfect place for me to expand those abilities to support progressive work, and especially at CASA. Really, it changed my political lens. Coming to Pitzer, I was more on a charity work basis, trying to help out through charity, and then coming to CASA really geared my lens more towards social justice and partnership, really seeing the work that all the different partners do here and really working in the community. And then really toward the end of me being a student at Pitzer, realizing how all these communities work together toward more of a liberation kind of sense and really reclaiming our space and our history. And so I came to CASA in 2017 as a student worker, and this space was just opening. I remember like all the desks just being put in, and it was just amazing just seeing like, you know, the different kinds of work that the organizations are doing to really uplift the youth and really care and nurture for the community. And so in 2018, I joined as a student and interned for the arts area, which was also kind of just starting up, in which I had an internship basically exploring my own area of Chino Hills and seeing where all the art resources are for creatives to be successful and just make a living. And so that really affected me as a creative, finding my purpose as a creative, really teaching people, providing education on really how to express your story and capture it in a way that's true to yourself and reclaiming our history. And so, you know, working in the arts area, I was able to collaborate with a lot of different artists, you know, teaching people how to paint, carve, all types of different art that people never knew they had the talent for. And so that was really the most powerful thing. And our club itself, Kuya, became a club at Pitzer, and just everything kind of came full circle. You know, I was collaborating with artists, the Inland Empire Immigrant Youth Collective, and different organizations at CASA to really advocate for the different causes here through art. And so, you know, I even got the chance to connect with, not coincidentally, with other Filipino-American groups through, you know, the immigrant groups that were linked through CASA. And, you know, because the colonial history of America and the Philippines, and of course with other colonized people, it's not a coincidence that I was able to meet those organizations through here and really steer my lens more toward liberation. And so, you know, that was really something that I hold dearly from CASA, and is really something powerful that is always going to continue throughout my work. So I graduated Pitzer in 2019, and now I work for UCLA as a study coordinator for, it's an NIH funded grant, which is meant to use AI and big data tech solutions to include underrepresented communities and Black and brown folks in more of the clinical research that's done in cardiometabolic research for kidney disease, in order to reduce the racial bias that's often found in the health institutions and the health technology that we have today. I also work as a study coordinator for a project in Compton/Watts, really looking at the water and measuring the lead levels to really collect the evidence that's undeniable to convince the government to really invest in the infrastructure and redo the water piping, you know, to really advocate for the health equity for our communities. And so, you know, the model that CASA Pitzer has of community-based partnership is really just has been a main part of my work throughout. Even after graduation, I always find myself coming back to CASA, coming back to the different groups that are with CASA, ICIJ, IIYC, just supporting throughout various mural projects, art projects, and you know, just doing all that work to really just be connected and come back to the community. And you know, we recently just did a mural to represent all the different organizations here, and it's just been really meaningful to see this space just really grow and change throughout the years, and according to what the needs are and what the wants are from the community. And so, yeah, that's kind of my experience with CASA, and I'm forever grateful. And I think I'm always going to find myself coming back here. You know, of course, like in my work, I used to work in pediatrics, and I was working with the Immigrant Coalition to really debunk some of the myths about COVID, to bring that medical information to our communities. And you know, I even worked with the census at some point. And so, you know, CASA Pitzer has just really been a core part of my career, you know, professionally, personally, and I think it always will be. So.
It's hard to compete with that. All right, so my name is Michael Griggs. My current role is the outreach coordinator at Cal State San Bernardino for a program called Project Rebound. It's a program that assists formerly incarcerated students pursuing higher education. So we provide assistance with enrollment and admission, as well as like recruitment. And then once the students are enrolled, we provide them financial support to ensure that they're successful. So I guess my role in that is based upon my lived experience. I am formerly incarcerated. I did 6 years inside prison before I went to Pitzer College. But when I was at Pitzer College, I was the only formerly incarcerated student there. And so I kind of felt like, I also felt like I, was a sore thumb because I'd sit in these classes as an older student. I'd go to the printing center and I'd get some stuff printed up in the printing center. They'd ask me, also, what class are you teaching? One day. I think CASA, for me, it epitomizes the Pitzer core values, and that was the reason why I chose Pitzer in the first place. I walked onto the college campus, beautiful campus, really intimate, and I walked onto a campus and I met Tessa, and she talked about this scholarship and the Pitzer core values and what they believed in, and that really, the way she expressed it, that was the first time I heard about Pitzer. I grew up in the Inland Empire, never heard of the Claremont colleges. I was just not college was just not in the books for me at the time. I was in a different lifestyle. But the way she explained it, her as well as the other professors who talked about it, it really struck a chord with me. And so I decided to apply for that scholarship. And I got it. And I was fully transparent about my background. And I felt like, you know what? Pitzer took a chance on me. They gave me an opportunity. I didn't necessarily, I was just fully transparent. And they took the chance with me. And that was the type of school that I wanted to go to. So fast forward, all these years, Tessa ended up becoming my advisor. I did a self-design major in social justice, of course, because she's the perfect advisor for that. But all the years I was designing that major with her, I always wanted to take CASA, but I was also working full time. Long and behold, the pandemic hits, and actually I got laid off from my construction job, but it allowed me to go to school full time and finish this degree. And I was able to take CASA. Unfortunately, not with Tessa, but I had some amazing professors who mentored me through that process. And I got to participate, intern with Starting Over Inc., using my lived experience. So Starting Over Inc. is an organization in Riverside County that helps formerly incarcerated people pursue who are coming back from reentry. They provide wraparound support and housing support, as well as advocacy. They're a great organization. But what was unique was the fact that I actually had experienced all this myself, and I was able to add to this organization. And then the fact that it was participatory action and just really struck a chord with me. I always, I've done plenty of research papers, but it wasn't until CASA that I really learned that research can be a very extractive process. But with CASA, I was able to see that we're able to come up with a research question that they helped design and do research that helped benefit the organization. And this was my first time actually working with formerly incarcerated. I was formerly incarcerated. I was a formerly incarcerated person. I knew formerly incarcerated people, but it really informed my, my employment and my dreams of steering my career. So that's what I currently do today. I feel like had it not been for CASA and getting that experience and seeing the value that I can bring with my lived experience to another organization. So currently, I work with students who are formerly incarcerated every day. I also work with Temple University as a faculty coach for the Inside Out Prison Exchange program. And it's work that I'm really passionate about, and I feel like CASA kind of also showed me too. This is a perfect example of that. You can do work that you're passionate about and also be compensated for it, and I think that's where I'm going for. I've been in jobs where I haven't been passionate about the work, But from now on, it's like doing work that matters to me is probably the most important thing, and I think CASA sets a good precedent for that as well. So thank you.
Aren't they cool? This is what Pitzer produces in part. I mean, y'all are your own people, but we have a little small part in it. It's really beautiful. And to our community partners who are out there, you know, y'all are co-educators for our students, and so much of their education comes in and with and from community. We're really grateful for that. I would love if some of you could share if there's a key learning that you got from being in and working with community and through Pitzer. Just one key nugget of, you know, learning that has stuck with you. And not everybody has to answer, but whoever feels compelled to.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that I've learned throughout my experience at CASA is really just having your research and your projects and the expectation of those really initiated and guided by the community. And when I say that is like when we're academics, we usually start our research by hypothesizing and creating our own kind of expectations on how we're going to outline things. And at some points, that can actually be pretty counterproductive. For an example, when I was working at CASA, I was trying to put together these different arts programs that would engage the community and kind of visualize their experiences and kind of to create this consistent meeting on basis. And so, little did I know, it was actually better to work with, you know, groups like IIYC and ICIJ in spaces where, you know, that already exists. Like, for example, I thought I was going to be organizing, you know, weekly meetings in a classroom, like doing drawing sessions, and at some point I even had difficulty communicating that with different groups. I remember I was touring the different warehouse sites, and we were trying to communicate, like, okay, we're trying to put this art project together. I used language like, oh, we're trying to depict your experiences, and no one was understanding what we were trying to do. And eventually, it worked out because I eventually worked with IIYC and ICIJ and the organizers there to do art events and the cultural enrichment things that they were already doing. Like, for example, we would do murals during Dia de los Muertos in those events, or we would do writing and poetry projects in the social justice hub. You know, so and really collaborating with the community. And so in that way, those projects manifested because I put my trust and I let the community guide those kinds of themes and that setup. And I saw for myself how really centering kind of that extractive framework can really be counterproductive. And so that was a really big lesson. And I guess like the biggest manifestation of that was the book. And you know, that was joining kind of this photo project that ICIJ and IIRC wanted to revive. And so you know, we had the opportunity to work with community members, artists, students, and just all different kinds of people producing art that we never thought of before. And you know, that just kind of came together because of the things that ICIJ and the community were already looking into. And so, you know, that's kind of something that was really powerful that I've learned from CASA, and you know, something that I hold dear to me today in any other work that I do.
I think something that I learned is like the importance of leading with values, and I think that within academia or research, what Michael said earlier about how extractive it is, I like appreciate how like CASA like combats against like deficit thinking, and then always provides like solution-based and asset values in the culture, the community, the voices. And I think when I use that to apply to my current work, it's like, how do we really build like these interpersonal relationships that center the individual and like their needs rather than like assessing what they need based on their outside lens. And I think I'm just really grateful to use like accessible information, because earlier I mentioned like academic jargon, right? And like, how do you like really just create like that understanding across different cultures and like use different languages to create like, for me, I love utilizing visual graphics just to communicate the needs and reducing like the amount of words. So I just really appreciate CASA for like guiding me, but through the IIYC allow me to utilize like pictures and like different colors to communicate like feelings, emotions, and things to build that and like find healing. because I feel like there's like so much trauma within like the nation itself, but within individuals. But like, how do we bring that to a space where we can truly connect as each other? So that's what I really appreciate about something that's like my huge takeaway.
So I feel like my biggest takeaway is really how to be in community with one another and how to be in relationship with one another. And I think that's how really got me started in thinking about what that meant and like what it meant for me to be like a person and like what it meant for when we are like in a relationship with one another, like what does that mean? Who am I when I'm in a relationship with others? And what does it mean for you like when you're in a relationship with others? And so really learning like what community gets used a lot, like the word community, but like what does that mean? And it's really hard to describe, but you can feel it when you're in it. And I think when you're starting a new project and you're starting with a new community, you can feel like an outsider. You can feel like, you can feel like you're coming in, like especially with research, that happens a lot, right? When we come in for a moment and we're like there to extract some information, we're there to benefit ourselves, to get something published. But when we're there and we like sit there and we're there with community and we're there in relationship and we're there to benefit all of us, we're really reflecting on how not only we can get something out of it, but what we can contribute and what we can learn. And one of the biggest things that I learned within CASA is like how to be a student and how to be a good listener. Because when you're in partnership, like you are not the expert. You're there to be a good listener, you're there to be a good partner, you're there to be a resource. And the more time you sit with that and the more time you sit within community, like the stronger those relationships and those communities build. And honestly, like I've been working with Portan within these community gardens for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's not until very recently that I started feeling like really settled and really connected. Before maybe a few months ago, I still felt like I was like really like wrestling with like building these relationships. And especially when conflict comes about, like it's so easy to want to like run away and be like, this is too much. Especially working with community, you have so many different kinds of people and so many people with their own traumas and their own ways that they express like the harm that they've been through. And so when you're in that relationship, like it's so easy to be like, this is too much. Like this is a lot. Like you need to deal with that yourself. And we read a book, Healing Justice by CASA Alumni, or how do
Healing Resistance by CASA, Healing Justice by
Yes. And I still recommend that book to this day. It really taught me how to like organize and how to be in a community across differences. Because it's easy to like be with your own people and be like, oh, this is easy. We can make something that feels right for us, but how do we make something that feels right for like a lot of us who come from different backgrounds, who have different beliefs, different cultures. And yeah, I think that's probably my biggest takeaway. Thank you.
I think one of my biggest takeaways from the CASA program and my experience is to recognize your responsibility in an ongoing way to create more opportunities and seats at the table for those who aren't already represented. And I think that in every job I've had post Pitzer, there have been moments where it's obvious that there are certain people whose voices need to be heard that aren't at the table or you're not being listened to. And I think once you get into that professional space, oftentimes you can say, this is my job, I just have to do my job. There's not a whole lot of activism or advocacy to be done, but in every single job I've had, I've found a way to be an activist and a way to be an advocate and to create more space for those who don't have a seat at the table. And I think that that really is where CASA's values and Pitzer's values come in, is like wanting the community to have a seat at the table in the Inland Empire, in this academic space that is resource heavy compared to the community around it. And feeling just an ongoing responsibility in all aspects of my life to create more space for folks who deserve their voices to be heard and their needs to be met is something that is stuck with me.
As Mayor was speaking, I was remembering when you were a sophomore and starting your CASA internship at Gary High School. And we walked into a teacher I had a relationship with at Gary High School, and she said, she had said to me, can you bring some of your college students over here? We have no college students around for these kids to be inspired by or connected with. And I said, sure. So we went over there, do you remember this? Mm-hmm. And we started talking to the kids in the classroom. And what do you all want? Like, how can we be of support to you? And a lot of the girls said, look, our parents are working 2 or 3 jobs. We don't have a lot of like mentorship or support. We're dealing with some really intense things. We just want someone we can talk to, where it's safe to talk about hard things. And so Mayor and Milan, these 2 students who said, okay, we're gonna create a program for just a safe place to talk. And the kids said, let's call it Girl Talk. And so it was called Girl Talk. There was no after-school programs at Pomona and at Gary High School at that time. It was gonna be the first after-school program. And they're like, maybe 5 or 6 kids will show up. They ordered 1 pizza in 1 small room. 40 kids showed up. And line out the door, had to like get more pizza real quick and find enough chairs for everyone. And they were trying to figure out a way to safely have a space for people to say what they were dealing with that they wanted support on. So they had students write down on index cards, what is it that they're dealing with? And I think there was like 40 students in the room, and 28 of the index cards said something about, I am being hurt by someone or hurting myself. Self-violence or violence to them from someone else. And these were mostly like 15 and 16-year-olds. And I remember your response when you came back that first day, and it was like, okay, so I'm 19, they're 16, I'm not a trained social worker, this is really intense. And with the conversation that we had, and I brought in a friend of mine who was a social worker, and have us have a conversation about really knowing your limitations. Yes, you're not a trained social worker, that's not going to be your role here, but that they had asked for someone to listen to them and hold space for them to talk to amongst themselves and feel seen and heard and supported. And in the end, you created this really thriving project where students got to have a space of agency to hear each other and support each other. And then you all brought in, okay, so there's a place called Planned Parenthood, and there's a place down the block called Project Sister, and all these different places in Pomona that could give them resources that they could connect to. But just, I guess I'm driving off of your learning experience there, but what I learned also is like, how do we show up to what is and be as most support as possible in that relationship in a way that makes sense for the community that's asking for it and within the limitations and realities of where we're coming from, and that was a long time ago, and I still think about that a lot. So thank you for giving me that learning opportunity too. My last question for you all, and then we'll see if anyone else has questions, is if you woke up tomorrow and you were the faculty director of CASA and you got to take it wherever you wanted to go, what would you do? I'm giving off my job to someone else. I'm tired and all. Just give it away. What would you do? What dreams would you have for a community space that's sponsored by Pitzer College with these values and some resources? What would you want to do? What do you think we should do?
So I think I mentioned to you before, like once I saw you guys doing the training, the 3-year training, what was it called? No Justice, No Peace, right? So once I saw you guys doing that, I said, you guys need to train the community. Like, you guys can't just hoard this. This is too good. You need to train the community to do this work, make facilitators, and really like send them out. Send them out to the community to do the work. That, or just institute CASA at every college nearby, because I feel like all these colleges have a lot of resources, and yeah, they're all economic like powerhouses and stuff like that. They drive like social mobility, create jobs. But there's also a lot of community-based organizations doing great work and who may not have those same type of resources. And so like, how do we like duplicate CASA, you know, like at San Bernardino, I want it over there for my students because I had this experience here at Pitzer. I'm like, let me tell you about CASA, you know, and I wish there was a program like that. There's other programs, great programs, but you know, really, I think CASA has like a secret sauce that should, you know, that should be shared and can be duplicated. And if it did, I mean, I can just imagine the impact in like this community.
I actually have something that kind of works off of what you said. Something that I always thought about throughout, you know, my time working at CASA and also attending the class is, you know, we really learn a lot of these really great education about how to engage with like politics and policy, and really bringing together storytelling, the political work, and really telling a story that represents you personally. And so, you know, as a student, I found that valuable in finding purpose in that. And also, just thinking about how valuable that would be for the So, you know, I would always think of how valuable that would be for the community as well, to kind of have, you know, kind of this way for community to do work and also learn about, you know, different kinds of social justice thinking and like some kind of popular education that we can have accessible to both the students and also to the youth and the people of Ontario and IE community. So that way, you know, the kinds of theories that we're exploring are also adapted to, you know, the things that are happening for the people in the area. And so, you know, just kind of to facilitate that, I would, you know, also think of bringing, of course, like creative ways, more holistic ways to learn about, you know, political theory, you know, through artwork, spoken word, and maybe like, you know, like verbal history and stuff like that. So, but yeah.
The thing that comes to my mind is like Michael said, I grew up in Riverside, near the area. I had no idea like Claremont even existed, like let alone like Pitzer and the Claremont colleges. Like I had no idea Claremont existed. And so I think that creating like a pipelines like program of sorts would be something that's really beneficial for the youth in this area. Getting the youth involved with like organizing and knowing what social justice is, and raising that awareness of like what work can we do on a larger level from a young age, because I think there's a lot of hungry youth that are wanting to get involved with this work. Personally, I had a lot of fire in high school that's burnt out now. I'm on like a different level of fire, but when I was in middle school and high school, I had so much like just grit and like want to make change. And so getting the youth involved with that, with this program, I think would be something super beneficial.
Yeah, I think similar to what you said, seeing more of the community reflected in the Pitzer student body, in the Pitzer staff, and in the Pitzer faculty. I think that we are not only learning and becoming inspired and gaining skills, but we're also in relationship with others who are now aware of Pitzer and are aware of the opportunities Pitzer can provide, social mobility, career-wise. And I think that the program in the college does have a responsibility to the community and the community organization it partners with to really give back in a significant way that is not necessarily always monetary, but it's skills, it's relationships, it's those lifelong things that are really going to change the trajectory of where someone ends up. And I would love to see that become a core value and initiative here.
I think for me, like the Inland Empire has such like a unique history, like the landscape of organizing itself and like the communities impacted by like, I think just like you can see like the racial capitalism, like the lingering effects now today, and like the existence of warehouses too, and it's just like the inequities in the Inland Empire is like so visible like in our structures. And I think that for me, like for me, like living in Portland, Oregon, I wish that more people had access to like critical thinking skills that folks here, their lived experiences have, rather than like assimilating into the system. And I wish that there was like more, I guess like our curriculum itself too, like spread throughout universities too, like community-based universities, like students having access to that. But I think for me, like first generation college students having access to like the power of like their lived experiences and like finding a sense of agency into their identities and histories, rather than just assimilating to like capitalism and like serving the needs of like earning your profits, you know. And I just wish that people were able to like find a sense of liberation in themselves and their stories. And I feel like, yeah, just wish that, I think that we're just so unique and it's so encompassed here that I wish the seeds could aggressively grow in other areas. So that's pretty much like my vision.
I just wanted to add something really quick. I think I felt really lost for a lot of my time at Pitzer, and I think when I started CASA, like it was finally a place that I felt like safe and comfortable. And I think that CASA, or like Pitzer can do a better job at that in general. But like CASA has a unique opportunity to open up that space for students who maybe can't take CASA. I know for me, one of the biggest challenges of taking CASA was like the amount of financial aid units that I had during my time at Pitzer. And it took like a huge chunk of my financial aid. And that's what I was really struggling with, because I was like, I only have so many units, can I take these courses? And it would have been a shame if I didn't do CASA because of a financial situation. And so there's a lot of students who maybe that's the situation that they're in. And so trying to open up the space to students who might not be able to take the course but want to be part of a space like this.
Thank you. And to that point, we've been fighting since you were a student, and we just achieved getting financial aid to count towards CASA, so students don't have to have work-study jobs in addition to CASA, which is like a huge access issue. But I like what you're saying about bringing it out to other places as well. So many of the things you guys are saying are what we want to do or think about doing or haven't thought of, and that now we're going to. So thank you for helping us with that. I want to open up the floor to anyone who has any questions that they would like to say or comments. And I also just want to say to my current students, I did not tell them to say that they love research so much. They all talked about how awesome research is. As you all went doing your data coding and your analysis of your research papers, just remember that people are saying it's a good thing.
I still use that. Like I use my qualitative analysis coding skills literally today at my practicing sites.
15 years later.
Currently in the MSW program.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Oh,
I
sorry.
guess on that note, how do and did you guys deal with like bumps in the road in terms of conducting research when things like don't go as planned? Like what is your, I guess, number one? Because we're all kind of in the phase like right now of conducting and about to write up our stuff. So what, just advice on like when things don't go as planned, what would you guys say?
They never go as planned.
I would say, yes, they never go as planned, but to be as open to whatever the data shows you. And I think sometimes you go in thinking one thing and thinking you're going to write about one thing and having a hypothesis, and then whether it's quantitatively or qualitatively, other themes emerge that like need to be listened to and need to be incorporated into what you're doing. And so though research can be very rigid and structured, I think it is important to like let the data speak for itself in some ways and allow those important themes and points to emerge, and then to build what you're doing around that. And if that means like shifting your plan, I had the best thesis advisor there is out there, and I'm sure my thesis changed many, many times between when I started and ended. And so I would just say, stick at it, know that like it is a process. That's why you learn about every stage of the research process. And it feels so good when you get to that stage where like you're working on your discussion and you can really see the fruits of your work with the community. But be flexible and let the things that need to emerge, and listen.
The good thing about research is eventually it comes to an end. It doesn't feel like that in the midst of like your research paper, you know, like you're pulling out your hair, but then the semester ends. You know, there was a time where I'm doing a research paper and I asked the professor, hey, could I get an incomplete? He's like, I don't think that's a good idea. You want to draw this out longer? I'm like, no, I don't think so. So, you know, and the skills are valuable. I'll say this. In the MSW program, so I went my last semester at Pitzer, I did CASA. And then my first semester in the MSW program, you know, actually in the MSW program, it's research the entire 2 years. And one of the questions that they ask is like, they ask the class, okay, who knows what, you know, we went over the different types of research, and who knows what participatory action research is? And nobody raised their hand, except, you know, me. I'm like, I raised my hand. And then I raised my hand too much in this class. I think because, you know, the CASA, you know, like we're all in dialogue with one another. And I think that's the thing that I kind of miss, you know, like I feel like sometimes we're all individual, like as students, we all feel like we're individuals, especially in the current program where I'm at, but I feel like in CASA, we're a community. So I'm like, I'm trying to invite people out, we're going hiking, I'm really trying to bring that experience back to my school because it's important, you know, and we're all doing the same thing, you know, why not help each other out? Your classmates are also conducting research, they can help you, so.
Any more questions?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, or comment.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, in response to just like roadblocks in your research, like there are many times in my project and with the arts here where I had, you know, different challenges. One of the things I wanted to do with the arts here was create this kind of artist roundtable, and you know, kind of this weekly meeting where different artists from the area come together to just draw, paint, sketch. And at first it was super hard to like, you know, get people to come consistently, and I was getting frustrated about, okay, well, this is not gonna meet what I'm supposed to be doing for the project. And then I eventually realized, you know, okay, well, you know, I should be more open to what CASA has and like the kinds of spaces where, you know, there are artists and different arts that are going on with the CASA partners instead of just zooming in. And you know, because CASA is a community, I would say don't be afraid to ask for help or really see the ways that the different community partners are already engaged in the work that you're doing. So for example, instead of doing this art roundtable idea that I had, I completely switched around the format, and instead of doing that, I ended up meeting different artists throughout the Inland Empire in different locations and learning about their artwork and collaborating them one-on-one. I even connected with different art groups through ICIJ and IIYC that were not connected to the arts area, but I ended up doing like roundtables with them. So in a way, I ended up, you know, achieving that, but not in a way that I expected, because, you know, I was willing to be open and really ask for help and really see what's already, you know, developing, and just see how I can help amplify that.
I think we should end on that note, amplifying the work that's out there. I love that. And I hope you all feel as touched and inspired by our panelists as I do. So let's give them a nice little round.